These comments that we just got from the president seemed like it was a bit of a conciliatory tone when it came to these trade tensions and expecting some great deal with China. Is this the president essentially blinking, do you think?
I can't imagine that it is. There was a comment that he made, I think, last night, talking about always winning in terms of the deals that he does with China. So I'm sure it's all rhetoric that is appealing to the domestic audience ahead of the midterm elections next week. Bloomberg was reporting earlier that his poll ratings have declined recently, and obviously he wants to target areas where he thinks he is seen to be strong, and that is certainly the case with the tariffs on China. And I'm sure that is the reason why he's coming out with this sort of news on maybe increased tariffs, maybe a great deal. There's a lot more to play out here.
Is it also what we're seeing in the U.S. market now? I mean, this long time he's been talking about how resilient the Wall Street sessions and the U.S. market is right now amid these trade tensions. But now if we're talking about near correction territory for some of these benchmarks like the S&P and NASDAQ as well, do you think he's stirred by this at all to actually kind of put a little bit more of a boost into the markets?
Well, certainly we've seen some data recently that suggests that U.S. companies have been lobbying government and been lobbying the president to make sure that the tariff deals are not negative for U.S. companies. So he's got to keep a careful balancing act to make sure that the positive news that we continue to get out about the U.S. economy, obviously we saw a great GDP print in the last 24 hours, continues, but he controls the agenda, or he believes that he controls the agenda in terms of his dealings not only with China but with Europe and with other trading partners.
What did you make of the earnings season overall, Chris? Was it encouraging for you? How much of it was perhaps flattered by the share buybacks which still continue here, and how does it look looking ahead?
Well, if I was to look at the earnings season broadly, and I've been focusing more on what's been happening in the US because that tends to affect global markets in a bigger way. Actually, the results have been really quite positive. There's still about a 3-to-1 ratio of companies at the earnings level who've been beating expectations rather than missing expectations. And whilst, as we've always had, we get a couple of companies missing, generally the news has been quite positive. However, we are, of course, still only part of the way through the results season, and we've got a really big week coming up with, for example, Apple reporting later on in the week.